if you're looking for the best budget pressure washer, but some of the ones that you've seen online don't necessarily line up with the wall studs, obviously from what you've seen, or maybe there's some way that you're trying to figure out how to get the one that you already bought onto the wall securely, then you'll want to stay tuned for what we're going to have to go through this video because personally, I just finished maybe like a week or two ago mounting up the pressure washer hose reel onto the garage, so on the inside of the garage. And so basically what we're hoping to do is something like this, mounting it up to the wall securely, and depending how long of a hose reel that you have, you really do have to secure this to the wall very securely. You have to lock it into place because it's going to be carrying a lot of water. It's going to be carrying all the pressure. And then not only that is you have to account for the weight of the hose itself if you're going to be using a 3/8 inch hose or a 1/4 inch hose, and then the actual length of the hose. So we want to make sure that we're securing this to the wall and it's not going to come off because as you can see, it does protrude just a little bit. And if you've seen the one on Amazon, which let's see here. If you've seen the one on Amazon, this is the one that I personally have. If you've seen this one, then you'll know that this bracket right here is not the biggest. And I'll tell you right now that this one is about 4.5 inches. So there's no wall stud that's going to be 4.5 inches. So wall stud spacing is usually anywhere from 16 inches. Some older homes have about 24 inches. But if you're coming off the corner of the wall, like the first stud, if you will, from the corner, it's usually 8 inches. So that's why I was able to get away with something smaller, like a smaller piece of wood. And in all honesty, although we do want this secure, we don't necessarily need a very high quality piece of wood. Like there's no reason to break the bank over this piece of wood that you're about to get. So all that I did was I went to the scrap section at Lowe's and I picked up a board that was really long. Actually, it was a 2x6, and I think it was like 10 feet, 15 feet, something like that. And I didn't take all of it because it was in their junk pile. So some of it was splintered, it was cracked, you could repair it, but I didn't really want to repair it. So I had them cut off the section that I want, and they said, we're going to charge you for the whole piece anyways. Why don't you just take the good pieces? And I was like, okay, fine. And so I had them cut off this piece, which is about 9.5 inches. So I gave myself about a 1/2 inch on each end, 3/4 of an inch about on each end. And then you have to factor in that the studs here are going to be about 8 inches apart. And so with all that factored in, we're all in on the board for, I think, honestly, I paid less than $10 for this. All that I had was the leftover bolts, which I just had lying around. So some of this stuff you're going to be able to reuse hardware. Screws, same thing. I had some screws from a previous project that I just repurposed. And so a lot of this stuff you might already have lying around the house. And I would recommend that when you pull in the T-nuts, once you carve out the hole with your Forstner bit and you drill through, that you do use some kind of epoxy to hold it into place. I do recommend pulling in the T-nut, pushing it back out, and then putting the epoxy inside where the prongs will sit. And then you also have the epoxy in between the wood and the T-nut itself to hold it. And then just because I had it lying around, I used some wood filler. You can see here that this particular piece of wood had a little bit of splintering right here. And I think that's probably from when they cut it. So in order to fix that up, as well as to cover up the holes, I used the wood filler that I already had. You can completely skip this step if you don't want to do this. This is the backside, so no one's really going to see it anyways. in a sense, it kind of ensures that it's not going to go anywhere. It shouldn't with the epoxy. And again, you're pressing this into the wall. So you'll have the epoxy, you'll have the T-nut itself, you have the bolt pulling it in. The wood filler may or may not help all that much. And then you have the pressure from the wall. So you have all of this to help you out in order to mount it up to the wall. If you want, you can paint it. Again, you don't need to. For me, it was the exact same paint that I used to paint the walls of the garage. And so it's something that I had left over. If you want your screws really flush for when they go into the studs, I would recommend, you go in with a drill and then you get it nearly flush and then you just finish it off by hand. I particularly used those Torx Allen screws or Allen wrenches. And that's what I used to finish it off, just to make sure that it was flush. And then once we mount up the hose reel, there's no interference there. So the other thing that you're going to want to do is construct your hose reel for the most part off of the board. So you'll want to put in your quick connects, tape it all up right here. And most of these connections do come with your pressure washer hose reel. The only one that you won't get is this one that is at the bottom of the L. So if, let's see here. Okay. All right. So let me see if I can move this. No. Okay. So let me see if I can just pull it up here then. So the part that I have extra, so this little L connection right here, this will go directly onto the swivel right here. And because this is designed for a 3/8 inch hose, that will fit if you decide to use a 3/8 inch hose. But if you plan to use a 1/4 inch hose, you will need an adapter. So let's see here. So you'll need something like this, and I have everything linked down in the description. I use the cheaper one. It's holding up perfectly fine. I don't think there's any reason to spend a lot of money on this stuff. You'll know right away if it's working, and if it doesn't, you can just return it. So that's going to be the only thing if you decide to go with a 1/4 inch hose. So the only other thing is if you want quick connects or not, because you could just, twist your hose onto this and you'll be fine. And of course, just because I'm going to disconnect all of the wand and everything like that, I put a bucket down here just to catch the drip if there's any. And this whip hose, with the link that I have in the description, this whip hose comes included with your pressure washer hose. The thing that doesn't come included is going to be that 90-degree bend that is coming off the reel to the whip hose to give it that straight line coming down, because that whip hose is very, very rigid. So you won't be able to bend it or get a clean line like that unless you have an adapter. So that's going to be the only thing. If it's really nitpicky, you don't need it. It's just if you want it, it's there. So it doesn't come with the kit, but pretty much everything that you need for a 3/8 inch hose is going to come with the kit. And so I feel very confident in this because, as you saw earlier, we have 5 screws about 1 inch apart on each of the studs. So this thing's not going anywhere. Combine that with the bolts that we have up here. These are, if I'm not mistaken, let's see here, I believe they're grade 8 or grade 10 bolts. They are... So these are the exact bolts that I had, and it's from another project. It just so happened that it fit exactly. It fit perfectly. Like this particular bolt, when you factor in, you're putting on a washer, a lock washer going through the bracket of the pressure washer hose reel through a 1.5 inch board, which is a, they call it a 2x4 or a 2x6, but really it's a 1/2 inch short of that. So it's 1.5 inch of wood that you have to go through, and it perfectly terminates right flush up to the board. So right where your T-nut is going to end up, it fits perfectly. So that's what worked. And it's a, let's see here, it's a grade 10 bolt. So let's see, I think it's okay, it's zinc, and then it has a black phosphate finish. It shouldn't rust, but if it's rusting, that means we're also having a leak, so that would be another problem. The T-nuts that I would recommend, this is the one thing that I will say, let's see here. Yeah, so this is the exact same one that I have. The thing with the T-nuts that you want to make sure is that you get stainless steel, because I went through a couple of these, and the issue that I have with the zinc ones is that the metal is very soft. And so when you factor in that you're already going to be tightening it down very tight, and then you're going to have the hose reel exerting that pressure every time you're using it, I would just recommend that you go with a higher grade metal. It's like you can feel the difference in your hand. And so it's $8 for this pack of 8. Depending on if you plan to use it for future projects, that might be enough. But if you go with something, I think like, let's say, stainless steel. So here's the other thing too is, the pictures, this is the wrong picture. So when you're looking at this and you want to figure out if it's really stainless steel, I mean, the listing should be correct and the picture should match, but that picture does not match. Let's see if we can pull these up. The way that you know that you have a stainless steel T-nut, or like a 304 stainless steel, so a strong stainless steel T-nut, is you can just look at the back of the flange, and you can see here that this is smooth. There's no texture to it at all other than the paint. This is carbon steel. This is carbon stainless steel. It's a softer metal versus you have stainless steel. You're going to have these ridges, these defined lines. This is 304 stainless steel. This is much stronger. This is going to hold up. This is the one that we want right here. So you can see these ridges on these T-nuts on the backside. That's how you know that you have stainless steel. You can also feel like it's thicker, it's heavier, it feels more solid. You get a zinc one, that's going to feel even softer than your carbon steel. So let's see here if we can pull this up. It's actually, you know what? The zinc one, let's see here. Let's just go back. It looks like the carbon steel, probably like in the listing, so the zinc plated ones, but these things are thin. Like they just give you no confidence, because you also have to factor in is like you want the threads to be strong, like to be able to support all that force. The longer you plan to use your pressure washer hose reel, like let's say for instance you're going to wash 3 cars at once, then you're really going to want the supporting pieces of your pressure washer hose reel to hold up to be the strongest. And when we're factoring in that this is $7, yeah, you get a pack of 50, but the other one you get a pack of 8 for $8. Are you really going to use 50 T-nuts? If not, and you're already going to have to spend $8, just get the better quality one, and then you're not stuck with a bunch of extra stuff. Like nuts and bolts are fine, but T-nuts are something that you know pretty much walking in that you're going to use it. And the reason why I didn't go with something like a threaded, let's see here, they do have them. So you have the other option of using a T-nut, or I forget what they're called. Threaded inserts, that's what they're called. So you could have went with something like this. The reason why I opted to go with a T-nut is because although this is threaded, it'll thread into the wood. I just thought that this is going to have a lot more holding force to give support to the bolt as it's turning. Personal preference, it's up to you. The other thing too is I felt that there was a little bit more leeway here. Once you bore out the hole with the Forstner bit, let's see here. I think that's how you spell it. So once you bore out the hole with the Forstner bit, and the reason why you want to use a Forstner bit is because it's going to give you a flat surface for that T-nut to sit in. And so once you drill out that hole with the Forstner bit, you have the middle portion of that hole indented by that point. All that you have to do is go in with your drill, basically the diameter of your T-nut, drill through, and you're all set. If you mess up, say like maybe the drill goes in a little crooked or your drill bit is a little wobbly, you can go up in size. And because there's a little bit of wiggle room here, right? This is we use an M8. And so for that, we use a 7/8 Forstner bit. 7/8 is a little bit bigger than the diameter of the Forstner bit. And then you can go up slightly in the diameter of the shaft in order to compensate if you're off a little bit, and you'll be perfectly fine. So that's how we get the threads onto the wood. And then after that, it's just making sure that everything is level and then hitting it on the studs. What I did personally was I put the wood on, made sure it was level, found out where the studs were, drew like a straight line down with a speed square so that I knew exactly where the studs were, double checked everything, and then I marked out 1 inch apart from each hole. The drill bit was long enough to go through the wood and indent the wall, not go all the way through. And then once I had all 10 holes on the wall that broke through on the drywall, all I did was just press through. And then the wall was completely marked up that way. As soon as this was done being painted, all I could do was simply just drill in with the screw. For a number 10, I believe it is. Let's see, what did I use at Home Depot? These are the exact screws that I use at Home Depot. Let's see here. Oh my goodness, I had to do all this. Oh my goodness. Okay, I don't feel like doing that right now. Can I just see what I bought? Okay, let's do this. Let's see here. If we go by brand, let's see, number 10 is, I believe, this is what I used. Number 10, 4-inch, no. I think I used something slightly off the norm. It's a... Let's see. I think this is it. 3 1/8, but not that many. So the thing too is with the screws, it's important to pick the right screw. Even though it's inside and you don't necessarily have to worry about rust from like the environment, you'll want to make sure that you're using a screw that can support the strength of this. So I had deck screws and I was considering using that for this. However, deck screws are really good at holding things down, not necessarily holding things perpendicularly. So that's why I ended up with these right here. It took so long to get to. And so you're going to want a construction grade screw. You know, they say multi-purpose. This is a construction grade screw. I prefer using Torx because they're less likely to strip out. Basically, you have more prominent threads. Even though it says that you don't need a pre-drill, I always recommend that you pre-drill. It's always just going to ensure that you have a better fit. And then, you know, there's other fancier features to this particular screw. But it's essentially, it's just going to hold is all that it is. It's going to hold. This is corrosion resistance. People use this, like contractors use this to like build homes and remodel houses and stuff. So I felt confident that to hold up a block of wood that's attached to a pressure washer hose reel, it's going to hold up perfectly fine. So I had no qualms about using this particular set of screws. And then from there, just making sure that we place the hose reel where this quick connection right here, it's serviceable just in case it leaks, was also important. If you can't get to it, say like you're going to put it in the middle of your wall and you are going to be in between a longer piece of wood that's like over 16 inches to cover both studs, then hopefully you have enough spacing here to at least get a chrome socket on it, just so that if you need to, you can service it. Other than that, just make sure that when you're putting it on for the first time, like tape it up really good, do a stress test. So I typically don't pressure wash more than one car at a time because the cars usually don't get dirty evenly. And what I did was I taped up all of the adapters and everything to the pressure washer hose reel. I put it on the floor, hooked everything up, and then I washed 3 cars all at once, never turning off the pressure washer hose reel, never turning off the water, which I would never do. It's kind of like when I'm applying the soap to the car with the wash mitt, or when I'm drying one of the cars, I turn off the water and I turn off the pressure washer hose reel. I mean, I turn off the pressure washer just to not stress the system. But in order to make sure that the system can hold up, to make sure that the threads are on, the tape is going to hold, I would recommend like going above and beyond what you would normally do just to ensure that everything is going to work. And then once you're sure, hook it up. That way you'll have no issues later on. And then the last thing I would recommend is just placing a bucket underneath to catch the drip. That way it's not all over your garage floor. As of right now, I'm just using the Portland pressure washer, so I don't have a wall mounted or a shelf for the pressure washer. I know ideally you would probably want it above the pressure washer hose reel so it's not stressful on the pump of the pressure washer. But I think it's fine. I mean, if it breaks, it's only like a $65 pressure washer from Harbor Freight. If it breaks, then that could inspire me to get something that I can wall mount or shelf mount. And here is just like the before and after. So this was the space that I was working with. You can see there at the very, very like where the block went, I marked where I wanted the hose reel. So all I did was just see like what was comfortable for me to maneuver the hose reel at. Once I decided that, I marked up the ideal height, made sure that everything was level, marked the holes with the drill through the block, and then, you know, did what I needed to do with the block in order to insert the threads, paint it, use the wood filler to make everything even so it looks nice, and then slapped on the hose reel. So I'm actually pretty happy with it. Like, it looks, to me, it looks clean, it looks fine, it doesn't get in the way of anything. It makes everything so much faster because all I have to do is just pull it out, lock it into place, use it, and then roll it back up. It's a whole lot better. It's night and day better. But is it worth it, right? Is doing all of this worth it? Because at the end of the day, you are still spending, let's see how much it is right now in real time. Okay, so this is actually something that I should have brought up too, that I do want to bring up. Depending on your setup. So the one that I got, it's the 50-foot one. And so it's like $100. You get a couple of fittings and all that stuff, as well as the whip hose. I would say also figure out how long of a whip hose that you need before going into it, because you might not need a 6-foot one. I didn't. You might not need a 4-foot. I did. If you wall mount it, you're probably only going to need 2 feet worth of whip hose because it's so close. But when you look at this kit, take a look at it. You know, do you need these attachments? Do you need the whip hose? Do you already have some of this stuff already lying around from maybe other projects, or maybe you bought adapters already and you don't need it? So is it going to be more cost effective for you to get the Amazon Basics one because you already have some of the stuff? The only thing that I didn't notice when I was looking at the reviews, the Amazon Basics does not have the lock to stop the reel from continuing to spin once you have it. There is a locking feature on these other ones right there. So basically, ooh, I'm so sorry. So I did not switch this place. So what I was saying is make sure that you need the adapters for your hose reel. But the Amazon Basics hose reel, let's see here. So like you can see that there's nothing on the backside here, right? It's just a reel that spins, essentially. This and pretty much everything else of this design, I think the Amazon Basics one is the only one that I know that doesn't have a lock. I don't know why you can't zoom in when it's like that, but essentially that little ring there, it inserts into the slots, and it will go into one of those holes that you see there, and it will stop the reel from spinning. So if you have enough length on your hose and you don't want it to come out anymore, lock it into place and it'll stop. That's the only downside that I really see to getting the Amazon Basics hose reel, because they're pretty much made mostly from the same manufacturer. So you don't have to go with the essential washer hose reel. It's just what was cheapest for me at the time. They were running a sale, and that's when I picked it up. There are tons of other brands that run this same exact one. I think there's another brand called like M Mingle or Miko. So this is $80. If you don't need the adapter, you want some gloves, you can get that, right? That's cheaper. The retractable ones, I'm on the fence on, like, if it's really worth it, because that mechanism can fail. I just wanted something that was for sure going to hold up over time and not going to break. That's why I went with this one. I went with the 50-foot option because I know I was going to go with a 1/4-inch hose. And so one, it reduces the weight on the mount. And I know that if it can support a 3/8-inch hose, it can support a 1/4-inch hose at 50 feet. No issue there. So that is the reason why I went with this system. It's cheap. It's, $100 plus or minus all of the other things that you're going to get. Like, you could use your existing hose. Like, there's no reason why you have to upgrade the hose if you don't need it. But let's see here. Let's go with the Gucci brand, if you will. And that is going to be the Cox hose reel. Is that how you spell it? Oh, no. There's no A. Oop. So, to get one that is 50 feet, I think I saw one that was like $200. So 250 foot, 100. Let's see, up to 100. 3 is 50. So $200, right? $200. So we're paying double the price, no adapters, just the reel. And okay, so you get the adapter there. And I'm not sure if you're going to have to mount this anyways, because this does not look like it's 16 or 8 inches apart. Let's see here. I doubt it. So none of these are 16. It's not 8. Yeah. So you would have to mount it anyways. But the thing is, I think Cox, they do make a stainless steel mount. So that is stronger than wood. So it's really up to you if you decide that this pressure washer hose reel is better than, or it's worth it to not go through the trouble of mounting up a wood one. If you're willing to spend the extra money and you want to get their supporting bracket and just kind of just run with it like that, then this is the best way to go. I think this is the most time efficient way to go. And, you know, people, you know, they're very happy with this hose reel, right? They, you know, it rolls up smoothly. It never gives them issues or anything like that. So it might be worth the money. You know, it's $100 more. It's up to you to decide if that is what you want. But I think that this is fun. Like if you want to tackle like a small project, or if you want to start getting into woodworking, like this is a perfect project to get started on. It's like, you don't need a ton of equipment. You might already have the equipment to do it. You don't need a perfect piece of wood, and it's fun, right? I mean, I thought it was fun. It was a little challenging. I've never really worked with wood before. I wanted to make sure that I got it on the studs. Did I have the right wood, the wood filler, all that stuff. I wanted to kind of go through the process and see if I liked it. That was for me personally. But that's not bad, actually. I mean, $219, comparing that to, okay, well, the Amazon basic is there. It's not that much of a competition, but depends. Let's see here. Let's see what the weight is. 7 pounds. Let's see here. Oh, they don't give a weight. Yeah, the weight of the hose reel is also going to play a factor, because this is going to be the static weight. This is always going to be what's stressing the system. Okay. But like I said, if you get 5 screws on 2 studs each, that's 10 screws holding us in place, it's not going to go anywhere. I'm confident that it's not going anywhere. With that said, we'll open it up for Q&A. And so let's see here. So Gabe came in. Yeah, so I usually stream to 2 places, and so I don't know what happened with the update. I had it set up to go to YouTube and to Rumble, and it didn't go to Rumble the first time around. Hyde. Hey, how's it going, man? So I'm kind of entering your territory of like home makeovers and that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to catch up to you at this point. We both started out with cars, and I guess we're headed in the same direction. So I hope that you're doing well, and I look forward to seeing more of your videos, man. All right. So it looks like a little bit of a slow night for us here, but I hope all of you are doing well. If you guys have any questions on this, feel free to reach out, Instagram, TikTok, or, drop a comment on this video. You can reach me on the other socials at VroomTuber. I hope all of you have a good rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing all of you next Tuesday.